We're here with Brett Moffatt. He's from Australia, and it's actually Sunday morning there, where it's Saturday afternoon here in the Midwest in the United States. So we're going to be visiting with him. He's going to show us not only what's on his easel, but some of his other work, and he's going to talk to us about that. So hi, Brett.
Hey, Dee Dee, how are you? Good morning. Oh, good morning. Good afternoon.
Thank you. So we have a solo show planned for you this coming year. Tell us a little bit about what the solo show is about.
So it's called After the Golden Hour, and After the Golden Hour is represents it's twofold. It has the obviously there's that twilight time. So when the sun begins to set and all the lights become start to turn on. So it has that sense about it. And also the other meaning of After the Golden Hour is really when the studio system in Hollywood sort of starts to peter out. So that's kind of in the late 1950s. And so this exhibition focuses on sort of actresses and glamour and beauty, and I guess that duality of the interior life, so private life versus the public persona. And I guess one of the most obvious exemplars of that is Marilyn Monroe, but there's plenty of other actresses of that time who obviously struggled within their personal lives, but then obviously kept this incredible, and it was obviously studio driven much of the time, but kept this sort of beautiful facade up at the same time. So I'm really interested in that. I think it was a really interesting time in American culture and American society, but also around the world. Obviously, it was a very patriarchal society, so what was expected of women, and I guess the differences between how female actresses were treated versus how male actors were treated, those sorts of things, I think is also like really interesting territory. So it sort of it investigates this, like I say, private versus exterior worlds.
And was the glamour of the movies a big impact in Australia as well?
Absolutely. I know I grew up on it, and I was a child of the 1970s, but it was very prevalent, like American culture. And I think that I know Australia does, but I think a lot of the rest of the world has a lot to be thankful for that American culture, because in Australia, because of production costs, we weren't necessarily making a lot of our own content, so we're buying a lot of American and British content. But when I talk to the old timers that used to go to the picture palaces and those sorts of things in the 1950s and 1960s, it was all American, all those movies from America, and the westerns and those sorts of things that have double features, triple features, and that's where people would go. They would get dressed up and they would go to the picture palace, and it was a special thing to actually go to the cinema and watch movies. And the stars were, I think they're really stars. These days it's celebrity and a lot of
right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of other interesting things going on, but I think back then it was a different kind of glamour.
Yeah, I understand that you also collect a lot of memorabilia from that time frame.
That's right. I've got a lot of photos, newspaper clippings. I recently purchased the archive from one of Errol Flynn's very good friends, who was a Warner Brothers publicist. It was all the newspaper clippings surrounding his death, and the court cases and whatnot that sort of happened sort of shortly thereafter around his estate. Errol Flynn didn't have a lot of money, mind you, when he passed away, but he still had children and whatnot. But yeah, there's around 100 newspaper articles from that. So I bought those. I bought those at auction.
And
I've got.
I
Yeah,
understand that some of that makes its way into your art, some of your memorabilia, right?
that's right. Yeah, it's definitely an inspiration. So I surround myself with it. Um, and so I'm always sort of looking at it. It's not always on display, so I don't necessarily buy it so I can sort of show it all off.
Hmm.
But yeah, I've got a lot of signed pieces from everyone from Marlene Dietrich, Lana Turner, yeah, just heaps of stuff. But I also then collect dresses and compacts,
Wow. Hmm.
and jewelry and all kinds of other things from that era as well.
So then that's what you use for the clothing and what have you of your models. Tell us,
That
show us real quick what's on your easel there, and then we can talk a little bit more about it.
Sure. So this is like what I call my small workstation. So I've got two workstations. I've got a workstation for big pieces and a workstation for small pieces. This is the workstation I use for small pieces. So I've got my brushes. I've got some glass palettes, my mediums. I've got a couple of props here. So we've got a little compact that's in this painting reflected in the mirror there. So I've got a couple of compacts here, which is sort of I use for inspiration when I'm actually painting those in.
So,
And then this is a drawing. It's sort of slightly different. So this is very much this piece is very much 1940s. This is more 1920s Weimar
right.
Republic. So it's a very different kind of feel. But I think probably what a lot of people won't necessarily realise with the Weimar Republic is that when Germany, when I guess the fascists kind of took over, the Nazi sort of government sort of took over. Um, a lot of German filmmakers and artists actually went to the United States. So you've got Billy Wilder and a host of others that actually came
Hmm.
from Germany. So I feel there's a lot of
Influence.
parallels. Yeah, absolutely, between very early Hollywood and then obviously what then moved into the golden age. So
Right now, the one on the right is a painting and it's still in progress. That what we're looking at is the underpainting. Is that correct?
that's correct. So this is all raw umber. So it's just raw umber on its own, and I use white. So I'll sort of highlight things that are going to be sort of extra white in the painting or extra bright. So obviously, the lights here that are in the mirror. There's highlights on the lady's satin dress, and then I've sort of used it. You'll see here, and this happens in paintings. They're not always. I think sometimes people assume you sort of have it all figured out before you start, but I definitely don't. So as you can see here, there's actually a couple of perfume bottles and atomizers that were there, and I've sort of I've used the paint to white them out because I actually wasn't happy with the size of the bench here, which was sticking out further. So I've pushed that back a little bit, and I've actually added these other like this beautiful perfume atomizer here, and removed these two. And then I thought I really wanted a compact in there as well, so I've sort of just added that. So the painting definitely changes while I'm doing it, because if the composition's not working, if the colors and things aren't going to work, I need to change it. But yeah, exactly to your point, Dee Dee, this is the whole painting started out as a drawing. Then we do this raw umber underpainting, and as you can see, this is kind of like the next underpainting. So we've sort of got the calla lilies here and the sort of the sideboard, and this has been underpainted this side of the mirror. So basically, work from top to bottom or from left to right. So the next thing I'll work is I'll work all of this background, and I'll actually do the actress. I usually prefer to leave the subject last. It's like when you're eating a meal, right? And you want to leave the best bits to last. So I'll usually leave her and the perfume bottles still last. But basically, I'll work and I'll try and get as much of this background and stuff done, and then I will tackle her and the perfume bottles last. But yeah, it may. So that'll be 2 coats of paint. So the raw umber and then the underpainting. There'll possibly be a third coat. So basically, what happens once I do this next coat of paint, I'll be aiming for a finished result. But if it's not quite there or things need to sort of be tweaked a little bit, then I'll go an extra coat of paint. So
Right.
my painting technique, it really changes quite a bit. Sometimes I'll end up with 5 or 6 coats of paint. Sometimes it'll be just one. So sometimes it'll be just a blank white canvas and I'll start painting for the finished result straight away. It really just depends on if I feel like I can achieve the painting in one result. But with this particular painting, we've got shadow. She's lit, but she's sitting in the mirror. So there's a lot of different things going on. And then these get sort of lit up slightly differently as well. So there's so much going on in
Right.
terms of tones and colours that have to create this what's called a grisaille, which is basically a tonal underpainting. And that it's kind of like the training wheels on a bicycle. It sort of
Right.
just helps you, you don't have to think about sort of other stuff. You can just focus on the colours and actually getting the painting right. When you paint straight onto a white canvas, you really need to be making as many of those kind of correct decisions, whilst you're doing it. This sort of sets you up for this sets you up for success, I guess, by doing it this way.
Quick question: are those perfume bottles part of your collection?
Some are and some aren't. I wish I had this one. I don't. I do have this one and that one, but yeah, unfortunately, I see some. I see some at auction. I see some on the internet,
Mhm.
and I covet them, but I either can't afford to buy them or yeah, I just use the image of the
You
internet.
know, quick question: is Edward Hopper one of the artists who may have influenced your work?
Absolutely. I love Edward Hopper's work. I love all of his work. He was a very. I really appreciate the diversity of his work. He obviously did a lot of those New York sort of solitary,
Right. That's what this
alienated
reminds me
figures in
of.
New York, and I love those paintings.
Yeah.
Um, I also love all the stuff he did around Cape Cod too, all the sailing
Right.
boats and those sorts of things. The lighthouses.
Mm.
I feel like Edward in all of Edward Hopper's paintings, there's you feel that sense of loneliness and alienation.
Right. That's
Um,
what this reminds me of. How many paintings do you think you'll have for the solo show?
There'll be between look, I'm going to be safe here. There will be between 10 and 14. The aim is 14. So there will be a range of paintings. There will be some bigger works, which I don't think my audience has probably seen before. In the studio here, I have some massive paintings, but I don't enjoy painting really big that much anymore. I find I tend to rush. I tend to run out of steam. So, but there will be a couple of bigger pieces, a couple of bigger sort of feature pieces. But then the majority of the pieces will be around this size, which is 9 by 12 inches, and then we'll have some. Which will be that 5 to 7 inches, and then I've also got some little tiny panels. I think they're either 4 or 6 inches square. I think some of the subjects actually require that. So I'm going to do like a still life of some of these perfume atomizers, but I'll do that on a really intimate scale. So I
Yeah,
sort of,
I'm actually interested in buying that work of yours, so we'll see.
oh, thank you. Okay, all right. Well, I better make it extra good.
Yeah, well, I collect smaller works. I collect postcard size works, but we have collectors who like larger works. So it sounds like you're going to be offering all sorts of different options for our collector base to choose from. And I'm sure they're going to be waiting anxiously to see the whole show. So
Thank you.
we're
Absolutely. Yeah.
really
I'm very excited. There will be a catalogue that goes with the show. I've spoken to a fellow by the name of Charles Casillo, who wrote Marilyn Monroe's biography, Marilyn Monroe, um, Private Life of, oh gosh, I think it's Private Life of a Hollywood Icon. I think it's
Mhm.
called off the top of my head. Um, and he's very generously offered to write the
Oh,
forward
that's
for
wonderful.
for
Yeah,
that catalogue. So the catalogue will be like a really interesting addition, I think, for the
sure.
collectors, because it will it will talk about the work in context, as well as it'll have a rundown of my commentary as well, of where the ideas have come from for that piece. So I'm yeah, very, very excited actually to have that show. Thank you so much. Really looking forward to coming to the United States as well, and sort of catching up with whoever can be there. Be really cool.
Well, I didn't know you were going to make yourself down to Florida. That's a long flight, but
It,
but I need to then prepare the, the
absolutely.
showroom for it. So we have a nice reception for you.
That would be, yeah, that would be lovely. I am absolutely considering having a bit of a pre-show here. So I've got all my sort of, I guess, my collector base and fans and supporters and whatnot in Australia. Sorry, that makes it sound like there's thousands of people. It's not thousands of people. It's in the moderate hundreds, but I'm going to have a show where the works won't be available, but people in Australia will be able to actually see the
Oh,
works.
that's such a great idea, Brett. We can talk more about that later. But
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
that sounds wonderful. So just briefly, if you have a minute before we sign off, tell me a little bit about the art scene in Australia. It seems to be that art has a higher priority in Australia than it does in the United States, at least from what I can tell. They have so many rich prizes and competitions and
It's
oh, and
very true.
they seem
Yeah,
to like realism also, which the United States likes abstract more in some cases. But tell me a little bit about Australia's art scene.
yeah, you're right. It's interesting because I didn't realize that about the United States art scene, and it's because the only reason I say that is because I feel as though I've had more support from American audiences than I have from Australian audiences. Um, and I think that's because of the content of my work being related to Hollywood. I
Mhm.
think um, although Australians really resonate with golden years of Hollywood and whatnot, I don't. I think there's a lot more. You know, obviously the population in the United States with 350 plus million people, you've got a much higher proportion of people who are interested, I suppose, in my content. But absolutely, with regards to the Rich Art Prizes, it's yeah, there's a lot of showcase exhibition, like particularly in portraits. So people in Australia love portraiture. So we've got the Doug Moran Prize here, which is a $150,000 first prize. We've got the Archibald
The
portrait.
Archibald, right?
Yeah,
And
and
the
that's, I think,
Darling and all sorts of them.
yeah, yeah. So there's a host of them. I've been in the Brisbane Portrait Prize as a finalist for the in its inaugural year, and that was fantastic. It was it certainly gives an artist a lot of exposure. I've done a lot of portraits. I personally find with portraits they take a long time to do, and you've sort of I've actually got, like, you know, if I showed you around the studio, I've probably got half a dozen portraits here which are unsold. They're great portraits, there's nothing wrong with them, but when you do, there is a trend to do massive portraits and massive paintings. They tend to obviously get the most attention. So I've done a lot of big portraits, but then you do this massive portrait, and then the the sitter is like, "Oh gosh, I've got nowhere to hang that portrait." So you can sort of create a lot of work for yourself, and it not necessarily pay off. But yeah, it's interesting. I would say there's definitely some artists, some hyper real painters we have, like Michael Zavros and Joel Ray, who have done extremely well. But I would say, gosh, it's very similar in the United States in the sense that abstract art, contemporary art, like very colourful.
Mhm.
I think because of Australia's climate and our bright sunlight and those sorts of things, you tend to. I think if I was a abstract painter and using really bright colours, I'd probably be doing quite well in our market. But that's not me, so I've just got to stick to my guns and really create the market
Yes.
that
So
works for
stick
the kind
with
of work
what,
that I do.
yeah, stick with what you're passionate about, and it'll come
That's
through in your art. So
absolutely.
it was lovely talking to you in this interview, and
Likewise.
we hope to be seeing more of you soon.
Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much, Dee Dee.
visiting.
It was wonderful to catch up and show you what's on my easel. And next time I can show you some of the other things.
Yes, we'll do this again. Thanks,
Yeah.
Brett.
Okay. Thank you.